Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and today I'm going to show you how to make some quick and easy cards using the Whisper White note cards and envelope packs and just some other cardstock, colored cardstock. So I'm going to be making some rainbow cards to drop in mailboxes of my neighbors to cheer them up during this time. So we'll get started here. So what you need is the note cards and envelopes. They're already, the envelopes are in there and the note cards are already pre-scored. So you can just fold them in half and you're ready to go. It's always good to burnish anything that's been scored. I saw this idea from another demonstrator, actually a few different demonstrators, so I'm not sure whose name to drop to say thank you. But it's, I haven't tried it yet. I'm trying it now on video, but it looks relatively easy. So we've got the note card. So any size card you can use, and then just size down a mat. In this case, I chose to do black mats. So this is actually, the note card itself is 3.5 inches by 5 inches. And so I did a background in the basic black, and I've cut this at 4.5 inches by 3 inches. I'll have all this on my, wait, no, sorry. Yeah, 4.5 by 3 inches. I'll have all this listed below the blog and on my blog and below this video, so you can go look at my blog, Papercraft Addiction, for the details. But if you're doing it with a bigger size card or in another country outside of New Zealand, your sizes will be different. So basically, I just cut it so it was 1/2 inch smaller on all sides to give me a 1/4 inch background there. So you can see that 1/4 inch. And then I cut 6 pieces of cardstock. Yes, I know rainbows have 7 colors, but I just went with the 6 colors instead of having 2 blues, because you've got the blue and the indigo on rainbows, but I just went with 6. Now, these 5 colors are from the in colors that will be finishing in at the end of May. So this is the in colors that were 2018 to 2020. So there'll be a brand new in color released in the June catalog. So this is Lovely Lipstick, Grapefruit Grove, I'm trying to remember them, Pineapple Punch, Call Me Clover, Blueberry Bushel, and then I grabbed Gorgeous Grape, which is in the main catalog. So that color will not be going away. So if you like these colors, I suggest you purchase them as soon as you can. Because when it's the end of an in-color range, usually the color, the inks, the refills, the pens, and the cardstock tend to sell out quickly because people stock up on them, so they can continue to use their favorite in colors. Okay, so those are the in colors. Those are the ones I'm going to use. I cut those down 1/2 inch smaller on the long side, so that's 4 inches there, and only a 1/4 inch smaller here, so that's 2 3/4. Now the reason I didn't give it an even around all the edges, you'll see in a moment, because these will be cut and spaced out, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. So sorry I don't have a sample card to actually show you. Unfortunately, you can see that fraying on the edges of the black cardstock. That happens sometimes because the black cardstock is thicker than the colored cardstock, and sometimes the blade makes it fray. You might get that on cutting your Whisper White thick as well. So I've got black fluff going everywhere. So that's the sizes and the cardstock you'll be using. Then the other thing I'm using is for the sentiments, I've chosen words from the So Sentimental set. I'm also going to use the dies that match up with that set, which are called Stitch So Sweetly. And they have some interesting shapes and some rectangles. I'll be using some of those. So a couple of the sentiments from So Sentimental. Some from the Peaceful Moments set. Oh, I did pick out, I think I'm picking out one of these, Let's Hang Out Soon. This one's finished, the Rise and Shine. It was a celebration one, but I thought that might be a nice one. And one from here as well, from Sending You Thoughts, which is also a celebration set. So if you were lucky enough to get those, otherwise just choose any sentiments that you want to use. And the trick to this one is embossing the cardstock. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to emboss the colored cardstock, and I'm going to emboss each piece in a different embossing folder. So we've got, I'm going to be using the button embossing folder, the Scripty 3D embossing folder, the Country Floral embossing folder, that's a 3D one, I believe, the Hammered Metal 3D embossing folder, the Tin Tile 3D embossing folder, and the Bricks and Mortar 3D embossing folder. So I've got the 3D folders because they will actually give a nice deep impression on each cardstock. So I'm going to do each one separately, put the whole cardstock into the folder, and emboss it. Now you might notice I've got some that are different thicknesses because I bought some of them before things changed with the embossing tool, the die cutting and embossing tool. So some of them are not as thick as the others. If you have some of these thinner ones, you need to use a special embossing plate. You could put different layers to try to get it to emboss nice and evenly, but we also sell a 3D embossing plate, which looks like this. It's a blue plate and it's a bit thicker. So when you're doing that, what you would do with your sandwich is you put your cardstock into the embossing folder. Always put your embossing folders in with the folded end edge in first, because if you put them a different way, they might bend or skew and break. So you put them in with the folded one. So you put your base on, and if you've got one of the older bases, I will show you. So if you have something like the Big Shot, and then we've got the old platform here. So for this one, I'd move up the top, I'd put the bottom tab, put your cardstock inside your embossing folder, and then put that plate on top and run it through. Now with some of the older ones that were actually quite thick, I think this is one of the older ones, it was actually really thick to start with, so see how thick that is? That would not work. So what you would do with that is you would do the smaller level and just use a normal plate on top. Hopefully this makes sense. So I'm going to go away and I'm going to emboss these 6 pieces of cardstock, and I'll come back and show you how to make the card. Okay, I'm back. I did all of them in different folders like I mentioned. Now, a couple tips I just wanted to give you quickly on embossing. If you're embossing something that's directional, like the brick and the words, when you place it in the embossing folder, you need to be aware of how you're putting it in there. So with the Scripty folder, when I place that in there, if I placed it that way and ran it through, then the words would be going the wrong way from what I want them. So I place it in that way. Another thing too is, see the line at the bottom of the embossing folders? That's there to help you with lining things up. So you can just simply line it up on that line when you place it through. Now, if you're having trouble lining it up this way, turn it over. It doesn't matter which direction it goes through, as long as the fold is at the going through the top. Oops, sorry about that. So you can line it up. That one I think is lined up perfectly because it fell into the same spot. So you line it up where that line is at the bottom, close it, and then run it through. and then you know that your lines of text like this will be in the right spot, and it won't end up having crooked text like misaligning. So that's just a tip on directional ones. Other things are, you know, again, if it's got a big image and you want certain parts of the image in there, make sure that you look at it first. So like with my flowers here, I wanted some of the big flowers in that one. So when I placed it in there, I placed it and then look through and have a look at what's actually going to emboss on the piece of cardstock you have. So then I ended up moving it down to the spot that I wanted it to be. In fact, I think I ended up turning this direction so I'd get more flowers in where I wanted it to be. So have a look. Don't just throw your cardstock in there and run it through unless it's something that doesn't have a distinct difference on the pattern. So if it's all just one thing, you can just run it through. But even there, I lined it up to try to make it more straight on to what I want it. So that's all been embossed. Now the next step is to cut these. So I'm going to cut these into strips, and I'm cutting these into about 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch strip on cutting the long side. So I'm cutting to have the short end coming out the side. So I want 6 strips. I've got 6 colors, so I'm going to end up doing 6 cards, and I want the strips to be about the same size. They all need to be same size here. The different, I'll end up with a little bit left over because it doesn't evenly go into 4 inches. But when you emboss them, sometimes it shrinks the cardstock a bit because forcing it to pop up. The other thing with embossing, some people suggest you spritz the cardstock a bit with water to get a better impression. I've done that with some cardstock, but I find the Stampin' Up! Embossing folders do a really good job, and quite often I'll just run it through and then run it back and then back it up through the emboss when I emboss, so it embosses forward and backwards, and that gives a nice real thick impression. So now I need to cut these at 5/8 inch strip. I'll start with a easy one just to show you. So there's 4/8, 5/8 is right there, which is roughly just past the 1.5 centimeter mark. So I will just cut a couple of them. Let me just carry on and cut that at 5/8. 5/8. And that's 5/8. Hopefully I did this right. I think I didn't do this right. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, that'll be right. Minute there, I thought I was going to have too many strips. Thing is, I haven't actually done this card before, so I'm a bit concerned. So what's going to happen is I'm going to end up with a little bit that's slightly bigger than the 5/8, which is fine. And if you have the small bits and you're trying to line it up, if you push on this side of the cutter, it holds that in place. Okay, so you see this last bit is slightly larger because it doesn't go evenly, 5/8 doesn't go evenly into the 4 inches. So I've got those 5/8 strips there. And I will cut this last one just to make it into 5/8. 4, 5/8. The other thing is I could go this direction and measure it that way. 4, 5/8. But those small bits do get a bit difficult, so just gently set it down, hold it nice and firm there, and you can cut that little strip off. I don't throw little strips away, I keep them in a little pack because I can do a similar thing like what we're doing here with all the extra little strips, which I'll show you in a minute. So I'm going to cut the other ones and I will come back and show you the plan. So there you go, I should have 6 of those. 6 of those. So I'll cut all the rest into 5/8 or 1.5 centimeters, and I'll come back. Another quick tip for you, I just thought of, I'll mention before I finish cutting, is if you're doing a lot of the same size pieces, and they're not an easy to find number, use a bit of washi tape and just place it where you want it to go. So I'm placing that right at the 5/8 spot. So we got our 4/8 and our 5/8 spot. That makes it more noticeable, and so when you go to cut, you can just butt it right up against there and cut your strip. And so then we have our 5/8 strip right there. Okay, so I will continue cutting all these, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I've got all my strips cut, and they're all 5/8 or 1.5 inches, and then I had these bits left over. Now, remember I said that when you emboss, it sometimes shrinks the cardstock. So notice these are all different size strips, even though I started with the same cardstock, and that's why some are thicker and thinner strips, because of the way the cardstock moves when you do the embossing. So that's why when you do it, you should start with a slightly bigger one. But the whole point for this, which you'll see in a minute, is to end up having gaps. So start with your black and then put your rainbow together. So I'm not quite sure how much of a gap there'll be. And so you can choose which side you want to use, because one's debossed, which is pressed in, and one's embossed, which is pressed out. So you can just choose which way you want it to go with the design, and just, I haven't done it yet, so I'm just checking to see how much black space I have between each one, and just to give me an idea. When you're doing something that actually has words on it like this, try to make sure your words are going the correct way, so I can see the letters are that going that direction. And you could even go that way if you want to deboss it. And the red is the last one. So that's what I'm going for, that kind of a design. A bit of a gap between each one. So I think for this one, there we go. Hopefully I can do this straight. Last one I did, I had trouble getting things to come out straight. I'm not sure I'm liking that. That didn't come out as deep as I wanted, but that's okay. Okay, so that's what we're aiming for. So the easiest way to do it, once you have an idea of how much space you have, is just to put a bit of snail on the back. And then pop it down, giving yourself about the same amount of gap on all sides. And I suggest you might want to start at opposite ends. I think I've already gone crooked. Silly me. I'm thinking I'll start at opposite ends, because in that I can fill in the black on the center. I'm hoping I have enough snail for this, because I don't have a refill for my snail, so here you go. And then just work from there. So it looks like we have kind of the same amount of space. So once again, make sure you're popping the one with the writing the right way up. I'm just going to set that there gently. I'm not going to give it a good push in case I need to straighten it out. Things that have a lot of impression on it, sometimes liquid glue is better, because you can't get enough snail on, there's not enough flat on the back to catch the snail. So, but just for the video, I'm just going to do the snail, which I think I might be running out. And also things like with the flowers, you know, try to see if you can, if they're going a certain direction, try to keep them going the same direction up. And I'm gently, and then gently on this one as well, because I can see that I do have a bit more space in there. So if I set that one there, I can just slide that one over a bit, trying to get an even amount of black is my point, as well as trying to make them straight as best I can. But as I said, because the cardstock shrinks a bit, probably would have been better if I'd cut the cardstock bigger to start with and then just cut the sides down after I embossed them. But that's working okay. There we go. Okay, that looks, I think that looks pretty good. This yellow one's looking a bit crooked, but I think it's because it's not as long as the other. Okay. You see this one, because of the way it sits, it's not got enough adhesive in the ends. There we go. We'll set that in a bit better here. There we go. Okay, so when you're happy with the way it looks, well, that's good enough, I'd say. Give it a good pressing, not too much, you don't want to ruin your embossing, but just a bit of pressing there. So there, pretty colors of the rainbow. Then you can simply stick that onto your cardstock. And because I don't want to use up all my snail, I won't be able to get any more for a while since New Zealand in a state of lockdown. I'm going to use my tear and tape here, because I've got extra of that. And I didn't get a refill for my snail before the lockdown, which is a shame. So if you watched any of my other videos, you know I love to use tear and tape. And I also do tabs with my tear and tape. I just use the scissors to help pull up the paper, or any pokey tool that you have. And I do tabs on the side. It helps for alignment. So if you misalign things, which unfortunately I do tend to do that, especially if you're in a hurry or doing something on video. So it just helps with that, to get it to align. Because basically at this stage, if I press this down, I've only got 4 small points that are stuck, and if I need to realign it, I can pull it up. So make sure you got it going the right way up. You could have your rainbow going that way if you want, but I've got the words here, so I want it to go that way. Okay. So just line it up, trying to get the same amount of white on all sides. And then you can press where you know you've pulled up your adhesive. So that corners a bit. There you go. And once you're happy with the way it looks, you just pull your tab, and that releases the rest of the adhesive to stick to the back. And I think I did it crooked after all that. Oh well. So that's the background. And so basically you do that for 6 cards. So you just carry on, and you just have embossed images in the rainbow colors, and they'll be slightly different. And for some of them you might wish to choose to do the other way around, the deboss, where it's pressed in. Some of them some of the images lend themselves quite nicely to that. Like, see, that's quite interesting. So you can mix it up that way as well. So for this, I thought I would stamp some words and use the dies. So I just got some scrap, and I'm going to use my favorite black, which is Memento. I love my Memento black. And because I'm going to cut them out with the dies, I've just got the scrap, and I'm just going to make sure I know roughly where I'm going to be cutting. So I thought some of these sayings were quite good for the time being. Sending healing hugs. I always turn it over if it's not a see-through one, just to check that I've got the ink enough ink on all the different areas. You could use a Stamparatus if you want to make sure that it's perfectly lined up, and if you don't get enough ink on there, then you can just go over it again with the Stamparatus. So yeah, so that's not really dark, but that's okay. Sending healing hugs. Another one I want to use that will fit nicely up here. Just kind of roughly figure out where I want it to go. I can't thank you enough. Lots of people at the moment that we should give our thanks to. Those in essential services, the doctors, the nurses, everybody helping out at this time. So give that good pressure there as well. Hoping you can see me stamping this. Okay. So I'm going to make 6 different cards and with different sayings. Another one I was thinking, if loving thoughts could heal, and then the inside it'll be, you'd be better already. So the inside will be for the inside of the card. So this one, I'll pop it up. Let's see, where's that going to go? It's going to go there. So this one could probably go right about. Just eyeballing where I want it to go, so I waste as little cardstock as possible. So sometimes it's better to stamp before you die cut, because then you can line up your die cut on it. Other times it's better to die cut it and then you can just stamp right onto the die cut. My suggestion there is if it's a die cut that's just like a circle or something, that's fine. But if it's one that has embossed parts, like raised areas, stamp it first, then cut it out. Because if you mess up on the stamping, you can't turn the die over, because then the details on it will be on the wrong side and you won't be able to see it very well. So those are those ones. And then I was thinking I was going to do another one. So come down here and do another one about there. Thinking about this, I should have gone the other direction with those. The other thing too is if you stamp first and you find you don't like your image, you can turn the cardstock over and stamp on the back. Okay. So I'm going to cut these out and I'm going to carry on and show you how to finish up this card, and then I'm going to make the other cards, and at the end of the video I will show you how they all turned out. Okay. Oh wait, before I do that I forgot. Yep. There's another one. So life is better with a friend like you, and that'll go straight across the center. And so that one I just got a scrap piece of card because I'm going to fussy cut this. And if you don't know what fussy cutting means, it means just taking your scissors and cutting around the image. So that's different than die cutting, because die cutting you put a metal die over the image and run it through a die cutting machine to get it to come out. So that actually looks quite good just on the rectangle. So I might decide later if I want to do that. And then the 6th one, the cardstock's dirty, so I'll turn it that way. Let's hang out soon. Now that's from one of the Celebrations sets that I never got around to using. So if you were lucky enough to get that set, this is one of the words, and I thought this might look good fussy cut on top of the card as well. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'll die cut those and I'll come back and finish up this card. Okay, so here I'm back. So for this card, I've got all these different choices of words to put on it. And I'm thinking I might just go with just something nice and big. I can't thank you enough. So that one, we'll just put some dimensionals on the background of it. On the back of that. I could have taken it a bit step further. I could have actually colored the stamp with my Stampin' Rights and got different rainbow colors going in to the actual letters, so it would have had the same colors of the background, which might have looked nice, but it might have also been a bit over the top. So I'll just pop some dimensionals on the back of this guy, and so I could just have it offset, or I think I might just center that. There you go. Can't thank you enough. Now, as I said, I was going to pop these cards into mailboxes in the area, and I made this little poem to put inside that says, "This little card was made for you to brighten up your day. If it made you smile, then its job is done, and you should send it on its way. Please give it to someone you know to pass along the cheer, since all of us need to know there is always someone there." So I'm going to just not sign it or put anything in the inside, just leave that in the card, pop it in the envelope, and when I go on my walk later on, I'm going to pop these cards into random mailboxes in my area, not too far away because we can't walk too far from our houses at the moment. And hopefully that will cheer somebody up and they can pass it on to somebody that might need it. That's why I've come up with different words to put on the front of them. And before anybody starts sending me comments about, oh, you can't do that, etc., in New Zealand, we own our own mailboxes. The government has nothing to do with our mailboxes, unlike in the U.S., the federal government owns the mailboxes, so the only one that can touch the mailbox is the actual mailman delivering the mail and the person it's addressed to, taking it out of the box. But here in New Zealand, the mailboxes are owned by the people, in the house, living at that house, and so we can put whatever we want in each other's mailboxes, which is quite handy for if somebody's coming to pick something up, or you want to just drum up business. I used to be an Avon salesperson here in New Zealand until I think about 2 or 3 years ago now. They left New Zealand and Australia, so there's no Avon available in these countries any longer. But that's what I used to do, pop the catalogs in mailboxes, and my customers would leave their orders in the box for me to pick up, and then sometimes I would just drop the order off in their mailbox. So I had customers that I'd never ever met. We just did mailbox contact. So here we can do that. So that's why I made the cute little poem to put into these and pop in the mailboxes. So I'm going to go and finish up the other 5, and then I will show you at the end of the video what I've come up with and how they all look. Okay, be back soon. Okay, so I finished doing all 6 of the cards, as you can see here. I actually did 3 of them with the purple to the red, and the others will go from the red to the purple. So if you are going to do that and you have any embossed images that are directional, make sure that you turn the direction around. So like the words are going the correct way on here, and the same with the others. So I'll just show you what I did with to finish these off. So I just flagged the end of the words that I stamped there, and I just put a couple jewels on there. Those jewels are from the Holiday Rhinestone Basic Jewels. I believe they are currently in the holiday carryover section online. So if you go online, you can find those jewels. They come in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different colors. Unfortunately, not colors that match all of those. So that just added some jewels to give it some interest. This one, Thinking of You with All My Heart. I've actually put little, if you can see there, I've got little clear hearts. So those guys are clear, so they pick up the color behind. I'm not sure if this is still a current product, but it was the Heart Epoxy Droplets. So I will check and see if it's current. If not, I'll have to put retired. But it had 3 different sizes of hearts. You could color those with your blends to get solid colors, or if you just put them over colored paper, you pick up the color behind. Then Sending Healing Hugs. That one I used a couple gems as well. I only use the 2 gems because the other gems in that set don't match very well. So I just put a couple of red and a blue just to, give a bit of bling to it. This is the first one that I did. I can't thank you enough. I didn't add anything to that. You could add a bit of Wink of Stella if you want it to give it a bit of bling to it, but I just like the nice, simple, plain look of that. Another one using the gems, and so as you can see, like the yellow gem here definitely doesn't match the yellow, and that's not quite the same green. But I just put one in each corner for there, and then the inside of this says, "You'd be better already." So if loving thoughts could heal, you'd be better already. And then this one, I fussy cut the words after I stamped them. So I cut them out with scissors, and there's a few little droplets, epoxy droplets. Those are clear, so you end up with the color of whatever's behind it. I don't know if those are current either. They were called Glitter Clear Epoxy Shapes. And looking at the old color here, I think they probably don't exist anymore. They had little raindrops as well. But what you can do if you don't have those is you use your fine tip glue pen and just put a dot of glue where you want and leave it to dry, and the fine tip glue pen will dry clear, and it will give you the same effect of like water or a little droplet there. Okay. And then I took a further step and stamped the envelopes. So the back of the envelopes, these are the ones that come in the pack that match the cards. I just stamped Happy Mail to go on the back of them. That stamp set is available only to demonstrators. We can purchase it, called Stamping Your Way to the Top. It's a special set that us demonstrators can purchase because a lot of the stamps in here are ones that we would use to encourage people on our team and customers, etc. So I took the word happy and mail, put it together there, and to do it quickly, I simply use the Stamparatus. So they're stamped in exactly the same place. Just pop the envelope in the Stamparatus, inked it up, folded it over, stamped them. So those are all ready to go. And then I just need to put the words that I made up this poem myself and printed it off the computer so I can pop them into each card, and then the recipient can do what they want with the card. They could keep it, or they could give the card away to a friend, which is kind of the idea, is to share some sunshine and pass these cards on to everybody. So if you enjoyed that, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see some more videos. I've got lots of great ideas coming up, especially now that I'm at home, which I normally work from home, but I do have some other paid work that is now canceled until May. Hopefully I'll get back to it then. And please share these tips, and if you do anything, I'd love to see it in the comments, pictures of what you've made. You can buy anything. If you're in New Zealand and you don't already have a demonstrator, please go to my website, michellekritchley.stampinup.net, to order products. At the moment, they're not shipping to New Zealand, but as soon as they lift the lockdown, they will ship. And have a look at my blog, Papercraft Addiction, because I will be putting details of sizes and more pictures of these items there. And I will list the products used under this video. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you watch another video soon. Bye-bye.